If you've ever updated your Nvidia driver on Linux Mint, and suddenly your screen starts flickering, your games lose performance, your second monitor stops working, or worse, your system boots into a black screen, you already know how frustrating that moment feels. Everything was working perfectly yesterday, you clicked update, rebooted with confidence, and now you're staring at a broken desktop wondering what just happened. The good news is this. Rolling back Nvidia drivers in Linux Mint is not only possible, it's actually fast and straightforward once you understand how Mint handles drivers. In this video, we're going to walk step by step through how to roll back Nvidia drivers in Linux Mint quickly, safely, and without breaking your system further. By the end of this guide, you'll know exactly what to do whether your system still boots normally or you're stuck at a black screen. First, let's understand what's actually happening behind the scenes. Linux Mint is based on Ubuntu, and it uses the Driver Manager tool to manage proprietary drivers like Nvidia. When you install or update Nvidia drivers, Mint is essentially installing specific driver packages from Ubuntu's repositories. These packages include kernel modules that must match your currently running kernel. If something goes wrong, maybe the new driver version has a bug, maybe it doesn't play nicely with your GPU model, or maybe it conflicts with your kernel version. In those cases, rolling back simply means removing the current Nvidia driver package and reinstalling a previous, stable version. Now here's the important part. Rolling back is different depending on your situation. If your desktop still loads and you can log in normally, the process is very easy. If you're stuck on a black screen, you'll need to use recovery mode or a TTY console. We're going to cover both scenarios so you're fully prepared. Let's start with the easy case. Your system boots normally, but you're experiencing issues like lower performance, screen tearing, broken external monitors, or gaming crashes. The fastest way to roll back Nvidia drivers in Linux Mint is using Driver Manager. Open the menu, type Driver Manager, and launch it. Mint will ask for your password because this tool modifies system packages. Once it scans your hardware, it will show you available driver versions for your Nvidia GPU. You'll typically see multiple options, such as a recommended driver, maybe a newer tested driver, and sometimes older legacy versions depending on your GPU. If the newest driver is selected and causing problems, simply choose an older version from the list. For example, if you're currently using version 550 and it's unstable, switch back to 535 or whatever older version is available and previously worked for you. After selecting the older driver, click Apply Changes. Mint will automatically remove the current driver and install the selected version. This process may take a few minutes. Once completed, reboot your system. In most cases, your issue will be resolved immediately after reboot. That's the simple method, and for many users, that's all you need. But sometimes the newest driver replaces older packages entirely, and the version you want isn't visible in Driver Manager. In that case, you'll need to manually install a specific version using the terminal. Before doing anything, it's smart to check which driver version you're currently running. Open a terminal and type Nvidia SME. This command will show you the driver version at the top. Make a note of it. Then check what driver packages are installed by typing dpkgl grep Nvidia. This will list all Nvidia-related packages installed on your system. If you want to completely remove the current driver before rolling back, you can purge it. Use sudo apt purge Nvidia * to remove all Nvidia packages. The caret and $* ensure all Nvidia-related packages are removed. Once that completes, it's also a good idea to run sudo apt autoremove to clean up leftover dependencies. Now your system will revert to using the open-source Nouveau driver temporarily. Don't panic if performance drops or your resolution changes. That's expected. We're about to install a stable Nvidia version. To see which Nvidia driver versions are available in the repositories, use apt search Nvidia driver. This will list versions like Nvidia driver 535, Nvidia driver 550, or others depending on your Mint version. Choose the version you want to roll back to. Then install it using sudo apt install Nvidia driver 535, replacing 535 with your desired version. Once installation finishes, reboot your system. After reboot, confirm with Nvidia SME again to ensure the correct version is active. Now let's talk about the more stressful situation. You updated your driver, rebooted, and now you're stuck on a black screen. Maybe you see a blinking cursor, maybe nothing at all. This usually happens when the new driver fails to load properly with your kernel. Don't worry, Linux Mint has built-in recovery options. First, reboot your system. As it starts, hold down the Shift key to bring up the grub menu. If you don't see it, press ESC repeatedly during boot. Once grub appears, select Advanced Options for Linux Mint. Then choose a recovery mode entry, usually labeled with your current kernel version and the word recovery. In recovery mode, you'll see a menu. Choose the option for root shell. This gives you command line access as root. From here, remount your file system is writable by typing mount o-remount rw. Now you can remove the broken driver using apt purge Nvidia *. After it finishes, run apt-autoremove. Then reinstall an older driver version using apt install Nvidia driver 535 or whichever version you want. When done, type reboot. If recovery mode doesn't work, you can try switching to a TTY console. Press CTRL plus Alt plus F2 or F3 at the black screen. This should open a login prompt. Log in with your username and password. From there, follow the same purge and reinstall commands. There's another powerful rollback method that many people forget about: Timeshift. Linux Mint includes Timeshift by default, and it's one of the best safety nets you can have. If you created a system snapshot before updating your driver, rolling back is incredibly simple. Open Timeshift, select a snapshot from before the Nvidia update, and click Restore. After reboot, your entire system, including the previous Nvidia driver version, will be restored exactly as it was. If you're not using Timeshift yet, this is your wake-up call. Always create a snapshot before major updates, especially kernel or GPU driver updates. It takes minutes and can save hours of frustration. Now let's talk about kernel compatibility, because this is often the hidden reason behind driver issues. Nvidia drivers compile kernel modules that must match your current Linux kernel. If you recently updated your kernel along with your driver, the problem might actually be the kernel, not the driver version. In GRUB's advanced options, you can select an older kernel version to boot temporarily. If your system works fine with the older kernel, then the new kernel driver combination is the issue. In that case, you can keep using the older kernel or install a driver version compatible with the newer kernel. Linux Mint's Update Manager lets you manage kernels easily under View Linux Kernels. From there, you can install or remove kernel versions safely. Another thing to consider is Secure Boot. If Secure Boot is enabled in your BIOS, Nvidia drivers sometimes fail to load unless properly signed. If you roll back drivers and still face black screen issues, check whether Secure Boot is enabled. Disabling it in your BIOS settings often solves mysterious Nvidia loading failures. Now let's address a common mistake. Some users download drivers directly from Nvidia's website and install them using the .run file. While this may seem like a good idea, it can complicate rollbacks because those installations bypass the package manager. If you installed drivers this way and want to roll back, you'll need to run the Nvidia installer again with the uninstall flag. After removing it, reinstall drivers using apt or driver manager to return to a clean, manageable state. For gamers using Steam and Proton, driver rollbacks are sometimes necessary when a new Nvidia release introduces regressions. If your FPS drops after an update, rolling back to a previously stable driver can instantly restore performance. It's not uncommon for certain GPUs, especially older GTX cards, to perform better on slightly older driver branches. If you're using Wayland instead of X11, driver compatibility can also differ. Linux Mint traditionally defaults to X11, but newer sessions may offer Wayland. If you suspect session-related issues, try switching back to an Xorg session at the login screen. Here's a pro tip. Before updating Nvidia drivers in the future, check online forums or Mint community discussions to see if others are reporting issues. Early adopters often discover bugs quickly. Waiting a week before installing a brand new Nvidia release can save you trouble. Rolling back Nvidia drivers in Linux Mint is ultimately about understanding that nothing is permanent. Linux gives you control. You can remove, reinstall, downgrade, and experiment without being locked into one version. That's one of the biggest advantages over more restrictive operating systems. Let's quickly summarize the fastest safe rollback path. If your desktop works, open Driver Manager, choose an older driver, apply changes, reboot. If the version isn't available, purge Nvidia packages and manually install a specific version via apt. If you're stuck on a black screen, use recovery mode or TTY to purge and reinstall. If you created a Timeshift snapshot, restore it for an instant system rollback. And if kernel mismatch is the issue, boot into an older kernel. Once you've successfully rolled back and confirmed stability, resist the temptation to immediately update again unless there's a specific fix you need. Stability is more important than having the newest version number. At the end of the day, Nvidia driver problems can feel intimidating, especially when you're staring at a blank screen. But Linux Mint gives you the tools to recover quickly. With Driver Manager, apt, recovery mode, kernel management, and Timeshift, you're never truly stuck. You're always 1 or 2 commands away from fixing the issue. And that's the real power here. You're not at the mercy of automatic updates. You control your system. You decide which driver version runs your GPU. You can experiment safely, and if something breaks, you can roll back fast. So the next time an Nvidia update goes wrong, don't panic. Take a breath, follow the steps, and you'll be back up and running in minutes. Linux Mint makes driver rollbacks simple once you understand the process, and now you do.